since it had to do with the bench trial stuff?
Yeah, so Michael and Nino, you both have been emailed copies of a report because I want to make sure I wrote things down before I forgot details. I mean, I could send one to Wyatt too. But basically, so with that SK bench incident, so Carmine called Forte the other day, dooming, which caused Forte to doom and was like, "We need to talk to Nino. It's an emergency." It was not a matter for the mayor's office at all. We told him to go up the chain of command. But basically, they had suspects from a shooting between Cypress and Manor at Tequila Law. They didn't feel they had enough probable cause to actually press charges on, so they let them go. And then BCSO tried to like get them in trouble for it. So I've been hearing little updates from Forte. You know, obviously I spoke with Carmine, and Ventura came into the briefing yesterday and was basically like, you know, we had this bench trial, and I wasn't anticipating the I'm not in a gang defense, so I lost. And basically tried to paint it out, in my opinion, as I did everything right, but the system failed me. Um, and it was basically what happened is that scene occurred. BCSO deputies were first on the scene. So, despite the fact that it was in Los Santos County and LSPD officers were present because BCSO was there first, they took primary and control of the scene. Then, when it was time for processing, BCSO split suspects and took some of them to BCSO, and then Forte, Carmine, Tylenol, whoever else took their suspects to MRPD. And because there was split in processing, there was miscommunications.
Nah. You know what? I fucking told these dumb fucks like a while ago that this is what was gonna happen. That's crazy.
So after you and I, Nino, got done talking
Who got
to,
brought to BCSO?
all I know for sure is SK. I don't know if there were others.
They said SK was at Mission Row.
That's not what I was told.
By who?
By Forte, I think.
Forte may either Forte is wrong or they lied
As far as
in
I'm
court.
aware, the only
Because I literally
suspects,
asked that question.
as far as I'm aware, and this may be wrong, because again, I'm getting all this secondhand, right? But as far as I'm aware, the only suspects that I know of for sure that were in MRPD were Harry Brown and Luciano DiCenzo.
Wait, what? There's no way, because I specifically asked where SK was processed and they said Mission Row PD.
I mean, it's entirely possible that that's true, but that's not the information that I got. But I mean, by Ventura's own admittance to everyone in the briefing yesterday, he lost because of his own lack of preparedness, right? Because he wasn't prepared for certain defenses, I guess, from you.
Oh, wait, yeah.
But the thing is, so yesterday,
oh my God, you're right.
Maxwell and a whole bunch of people had to waste a whole bunch of time getting to the bottom of this because Highwater pulled Forte away from a conversation with me shortly after you and I had the conversation with Forte to, as Forte put it, interrogate him. And I was like, do you think she was maybe just asking some questions? Like, could it have been in good faith? He's like, no, it was a questioning. I was being interrogated. And that she basically like told him that he should press the charges. And this was before or shortly like after they were going to bench because they're pressuring LSPD officers to push charges so that they could win their bench trial.
Oh my God.
And then yesterday, Maxwell and whoever the fuck else, other seniors, Charlotte Spade, you know, Forte, etc., people who were involved, all had to spend all this time fucking sorting it out because BCSO was pissed that they lost their bench trial and were witch hunting Forte and Carmine and stuff. And Forte ended up getting punished because BCSO wouldn't let it go and LSPD felt like they had to do something about it. So not only did BCSO overstep jurisdiction, they didn't spend the next 24 hours wasting LSPD's time to try and punish LSPD officers because they weren't happy with how their bench trial went.
Yo, that's crazy.
I won't read the whole document because, like I said, it's a little over a page. But you both have it to read if you want all the tea that I've collected. But I'll just read the final summary paragraph. from what I've deduced and gathered. Um, in summary, based on the information available at this time, it appears that BCSO took control of a scene within Los Santos County despite multiple LSPD officers being present, split their suspects for processing, and took suspects to BCSO, and then attempted to strong-arm LSPD officers into pressing charges they were not comfortable pressing because the BCSO suspect wanted to go to bench, and Ventura/Highwater were concerned they would not win without the charges being placed on the other suspects as well. When the bench trial
This
was
is
lost,
yesterday
as a result of when the bench
or
trial was lost as a
Tuesday?
result of yes, yeah, it's both.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. When the bench trial was lost as a result of BCSO's own admitted lack of preparation and not due to the LSPD's actions, officers felt pressured to write warrants they did not believe were justified, fearing their jobs were on the line and must comply. Additionally, commanding officers of the LSPD had to spend significant amounts of their time today sorting out this issue rather than being able to focus on policing their jurisdiction.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, this is what happens when emotion runs your life and your department, instead of like common sense, the law. I will say that I was definitely scared because I think the degeneracy of the marshals and the lack of competence from the BCSO, right? They carry themselves in a way that I think, like, did you hear what was said in that meeting? Like, if this happens, then it doesn't count, right? And this is what I was afraid of when the marshals are coming in and explaining to people things are an equation. And I'm like, that's not how the law works. Like, it's literally the opposite. If you follow a equation, you're going to fuck up.
So Forte and Carmine have now both written warrants for their 95s that they did not previously write warrants for. Basically because BCSO was like, you should, and LSPD command was like just wanting the issue to go away.
Yeah.
And like Forte was telling me, he's like, I still don't like, I think this warrant's kind of dog shit. I still don't think it's quite there. Like, I don't think it's quite cooked. Like, but I'm gonna do it because it's just easier to play nice than whatever. And like, the fact that he felt like his job, genuinely felt like his job was on the line, and was like, you're probably not gonna get fired. Worst case scenario, you get that. Like, but like Carmine and Forte are both always so scared of that they're just like, we'll just do whatever people tell us to do because, you know.
What the fuck?
And Ventura was like, technically, in the letter of the law, you have enough to charge him. And Forte's like, I get what you're saying, but in the spirit of the law, I don't feel like I should. And, yeah, they ended
okay,
up
but
warrants.
Ventura's doing the same brain dead shit that the marshals are doing.
But what I don't understand is
you
why he had that
cannot
conversation with
force
Forte.
individuals who are. You cannot make someone else charge someone if they can't articulate or push charges in good faith. It is literally illegal.
What I don't understand is why Ventura, who just lost a bench trial and came to the whole briefing crying about it, then goes to Forte and said, you have enough probable cause to charge this person, because clearly you don't, because you just lost the bench for the other guy.
Wait, what, was he crying in the meeting? Like, what? How did this go?
He was like, so he like put like SK's picture up on the board, and he was like, who can tell me who this is? And they were like, SK, and he's like, and who is SK? And they're like, he's part of the manor. And he was like, yeah, so last night I took him to bench and for a gang-related shooting, and he said, I'm not in the manor, and I wasn't prepared for I'm not in a gang defense, so we lost.
What?
And
wait,
and then
this
like,
guy is so dumb. That's literally, he didn't even listen to what the judge said.
And then he puts up a twat from SK that was like from a few hours before and said,
oh my
it said,
God.
I am the manor BCSO to my ditka or something like that. And he was like, so just so everyone knows, he's still in the manor, and he just lied, so we're going to be pursuing perjury charges, but in the future,
I am not going to be able to. Are these people dumb or like what?
But he was like, just in the future, if you guys take gang-related shootings to bench, make sure that you also bring some documentation establishing that they are in fact in a gang, or you're going to lose. Which I mean, is fair advice, but
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like
fair
that's common
advice.
sense. If you're gonna push gang-related shooting charges on someone, you need to be able to prove that they're in a gang. Like, why would you not have had that ready?
Because the problem is that these fucking bozos are literally criminals. Ventura is a criminal. There are criminals being trained in the police department. Just because they have a badge and just because, like, they dress up a certain way does not change the fact that they are operating inherently on bad faith. SK was found downed in a vehicle, GSR negative and with no weapon. They do not even have RS after a pat down to search him.
Yeah, I mean,
And they're just saying, because I am like, it actually makes me want to throw up. Throw up in my fucking mouth when I like break down how bad it was. They didn't even have authority to search him.
I mean, I think the problem is that this all stems from BCSO stepping onto a scene in Los Santos County. And again, if you're the first one there, it's fine. But then LSPD officers should be taking over once they arrive. Like,
they do not.
You can't be coming to witch hunt about pressing charges outside your jurisdiction.
I 1,000% agree. And quite frankly, it's I kind of wish we had like a pit bull that we could put to handle this in the PD, but those don't exist, right?
Like, if this was a situation where, you know, it was a scene up in Blaine County and deputies were telling officers to be like, you know, you should have pressed this charge while it was happening in their jurisdiction and everything, that's one thing, right? But to take over a scene in Los Santos County and then tell officers, well, you should have done this, is, I think, an extreme overstep. And it wasted a whole lot of people's times. And like, let's be honest, like, these weren't that crazy of charges. It wasn't terrorism. It wasn't the Hydra raid. It wasn't someone getting murdered. Like, it was a gang war. Like, it wasn't the end of the world if these charges weren't. But that's why I
want to pull it down back to the root cause, right? And maybe this is my like engineer brain, right? Is that you have someone who's like shadow running the BCSO, right? Ventura, who literally is a criminal. The way that his mind functions, the fact that these individuals cannot grasp that based on the evidence, SK, even if he was in a gang, right? The gang part was irrelevant. I didn't expect SK to even say what he did, right? I think he came up with that himself, right? Like, SK, by what the evidence shows, probably was shot before anything even popped off. And as a consequence of that, he is a victim. Just because he's in a gang, even if he had the intent to start blasting, there's no evidence of that. So he cannot even engage in a shootout, right? He could have just been in the car. And that you as a law enforcement officer cannot fill in your, what you can say in your heart of hearts, you believe SK was in a shootout, right? And was planning to be in a shootout. And had he not been shot early, would have shot. But none of that matters. If the evidence on the scene does not indicate anything other than him just being shot, you legally cannot even search the guy. What is the premise by which you are searching him? He is a downed individual in a passenger seat, GSR negative. Pat down would have shown that there's no bulk. And therefore, you couldn't even search the guy, let alone try to arrest him. And if you can, where's your evidence? And in court, they couldn't even present that. So, if anything, this makes me so fucking pissed. I'm going to go talk to SK and fucking have him sue everybody.
Well, and the crazy thing is now is because of all of this nonsense, which I mean, I think we can all agree is basically largely BCSO's fault. Maybe there was some miscommunication from LSPD's side, but like it all stemmed from issues that BCSO caused, right? Uh, Forte is the one that gets punished for this.
Wait, how did he?
Forte had to sit down talking to because they had to appease BCSO that something was being done about it, and he's got to fill out Cyprus's gang profile as a punishment now because they didn't want to dap him or actually do anything. But like,
Wait, how did he
had to
get
basically
punished?
give him a
Wait,
slap
what
on
did
the
they do to him?
wrist. They're making him fill out Cyprus's gang profile and like basically, you know, like bitch work because like they want to appease BCSO that he was talked to and something was done.
I'll talk to Maxwell.
Yeah. I mean, like, Forte's
man,
not
that
upset
is
about it,
crazy.
But, like,
no, I mean, that's what they should be doing. I mean, these fucking bozos were so unprepared. They put up two people on the stand that didn't know anything about the case. Maeve, they had people, they had the entire department and Spade standing there, and they couldn't even explain in court how they know he had any involvement with anything other than being shot. And this is how bad it is. In the cells, SK told him he was in a car and he didn't even know what happened and his vehicle was on the highway. They didn't even go and get that exculpatory evidence. They didn't even want to listen. These are fucking robots. I genuinely am at the point, like, seeing shit like this and being like, man, I wonder how long this has been. Keep in mind, I got a phone call from BCSO saying, hey, SK wants you to be your lawyer, and I told him I can't do it. And then they called me again to represent him at the trial. I went up there, and I told them, I'm like, I don't really want to do this. Like, I feel like it's unethical. And they all wanted me to be the lawyer. So that's what I learned.
When I was yelling at Forte?
What's that?
Is that what you were looking for, lawyers, when I was yelling at Forte?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
And so, when I saw this and then heard what they were saying in court, it wasn't just embarrassing, it was fucking scary. It's like 1970s police work. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're wearing colors, oh, you're dressed a certain way. Oh, like in the 2000s, 2010s, where like in the US there was people saying that like, oh, someone has a hoodie, therefore they're criminal. Like, it's so yikes.
I mean, regardless of the fact that SK has a criminal history and is known to be in a gang, he's still a citizen that has rights, and you know, they are obligated to serve and protect when he is not actively committing a crime. You know, like that's the nature of the job. Sometimes you got to set things aside and be like, hey, I know they're a criminal, and you know, 9 times out of 10 they piss me off because they're doing illegal shit. But right now, in this case, he's a victim, and he gets my protection. Like, they don't get to choose that.
Yeah. This is insane. Holy shit. They're reprimand. Oh my God. Man, I hope PD just gets wiped at some point. Like, holy fuck. Like, there's no fixing this. Like, there is no fixing this.
About his, you know, quote punishment, because he understands that it's, you know, a quote punishment and not really a punishment. And like, it's whatever.
Maybe
you have an officer that's already, and to be clear, this isn't me taking the girlfriend stance. This is like,
no. I get it.
Objectively reprehensible, because like, you have an officer that's scared to do his job because he's afraid he's going to get fired or extremely disciplined, or that people, you know, don't think he's competent. And then, you know, by people that couldn't do their jobs properly in the first place, threw a big enough fit that he has to take a slap on the wrist, and now it's going to be him being even more afraid to do his job. When I think, to be honest, he was taking the correct stance by not applying charges he didn't feel he had enough probable cause for. Maybe he was wrong and he did have enough probable cause, but if he couldn't articulate it and didn't think that he did, then he did the correct thing in letting his suspects go and informing them that it was pending further investigation. And he shouldn't be forced into writing a warrant that he doesn't feel like he has PC for.
It's so that, like, my problem is that reacting to losing in court instead of, like, actually listening to what the judge said. The thing is, like, you have to understand that the fact that we won based on that actually shows how bad the state of the police department is. And to react to, okay, we'll put a pin on
Ventura
this.
basically told the entire UPD, because it was a UPD meeting, because it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Told the entire UPD that was present, the only reason we lost is because SK perjured himself. So I guess be more careful about protecting yourselves from
That's
gangsters perjuring themselves in the future.
crazy.
Is basically the TLDR of what he said. And I'm gonna get SK on that perjury.
He's not based on what?
Because they have the twat that he
I
said
hope
I am
they
the
bring
manor.
it. I don't think they're gonna win that though, because how are they gonna prove that SK didn't rejoin the gang? The problem isn't that, it's that they didn't present anything that even ties him to the gang. The problem is that these guys are like, oh my god.
Yeah. It's just, again, I would encourage you to read all my notes on everything.
Oh, I
when
forgot to
you have time.
tell you.
Oh.
I had a BCSO officer actually threaten to maliciously target SK.
What?
One of the cops, one of the prosecutors, walked while walking out in the course case, yelled that they were gonna they're gonna bring him back to court. I forgot what the exact statement was, but I told SK to get a report written on it.
For the same incident?
Yeah, when they lost the court
Isn't
case.
that double jeopardy?
No, not for the same incident. It's
Oh.
well, like they're gonna, like, the implication was that they're gonna get SK back in here. Like they're gonna go find something on him and charge him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you know. It's like, oh my god.
I feel like my continuous response to things I hear about BCSO is, don't they have something better to do?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so yeah, you don't want to spam it.
Just,
Wait.
but yeah, that's the tea on that. Read the report.
Yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's a wild time.
Just be.
I have one other thing to go over with you, but it doesn't need to be the next thing we discuss. If
Yeah.
Wyatt or Michael or whatever or you have anything you want to put out on the table.
Mine's simple, quick.
Just Navigator, make sure it's like RP rich, right? And it's more factual. But I like that you're doing it in character.
All of our invoices and
yeah, keeping it in character is actually a cool way to go about it.
Yesterday, and she's not paid the company $700,000, and then
yeah, it's a new NoPixel tool.
Previously, all the way to June, and there's even more missing.
It's got clips.
So
it's
she's
got
been skimming off the top for a good 4 months now.
Oh, she did.
Wait,
all my
say
furniture
that
orders from
again?
You guys, basically.
Yeah.
Wait, run that back.
Tweety,
Yeah.
currently owes a little over $1 million to the company. I went back and pulled all transactions that was sent to the Lumber Co. and all of my invoices that I track. Every invoice that comes through the Lumber Co. gets saved. I double reference them to the transactions. Tweety was missing close to $1 million worth of transactions that was never sent to the lumber company. So
Okay.
it's,
have you had a chat with her yet?
no.
She
Okay.
hasn't been around in weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So
Yeah, because we bought Forte bought a plushie from her for 30 grand, and she's ghosted us. We haven't seen her since.
I got you. I'm gonna reserve judgment until because everything sometimes has an explanation, and I'd be surprised personally, knowing Tweety as much as I do, but you never know. So let's reserve until we hear from her side of things.
Yeah, that's fun. It's just kind of threw me off guard because it's my number 2. But like when referencing all the transactions and all the invoices and the math doesn't math, it kind of, now I'm sitting at, you know, the lumber code trying to figure out a different way to do it. And I can't, because there's, even if I hire more people and continue to do it the way that I do it, I either have to be around to watch the bank 24/7 or I have to take a risk. And it's just, there's nothing that protects me at all. So, I mean, people could do that on a daily. It's rough. Just kind of have to manage it with like watchful eyes on every single thing that comes in and out. And
is that his stomach?
It's a lot of invested time.
Yep. Understood.
But also we're renting a space at the top of the lumber co because there was some food stalls that are having issues with getting ingredients. So Mark is renting the top floor of our warehouse to grow ingredients.
It's one of my employees, Nino.
Yeah, to sell ingredients to food stalls. That way people can get food.
Makes sense. Okay.
That's really it.
Anything else y'all want to bring up? I think Michael, you had some things, right?
Yeah, there was this. Oh, this is a good one. So this has to do with Margo. I don't know how much you've heard about Margo, but she's kind of going like batshit crazy, addicted to fentanyl, ate her own arm.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So she apparently kidnapped her boyfriend, who was Mukazu, who I know, and they're living out of this plaza down on Conquistador, which I believe is in Vespucci. It's just like an outdoor public space. And there was a whole bunch of shit there, like blood, crack pipe, pot laying on the ground, voodoo doll of Moo, a whole bunch of shit like that. And the cops
Brother,
went down
what
there
the
and took, like,
fuck?
evidence. Moose Knuckles goes up on the docket and basically tries to get the 2 cops in shit and saying that they raided Margo's property without a warrant. And that's, I don't know what's happened since then. I don't know if anything has happened since then, but it's just like an outdoor plaza that Moose Knuckles is trying to claim is Margo's residence.
It's just like a homeless encampment.
Yeah, and this is all because they were investigating her to for a missing person report.
Yeah.
And apparently she Margo held Moose hostage in MRPD to FOIA the report to the active investigation. The cop took the money and gave them the report. That's what I know. Yeah, it's just a big fucking yikes. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but it's on the docket. If you want to take a look, it's something. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Knox, thank you for 33 months. Deceive 110.
Jeb,
Hold the beers, 13 months. Crocs, 13 months. Schmoz.
Working on it.
Thank you for the gifted sub. Y'all crushing it this morning.
Gonna play along right now. And I can't think if there was anything else.
Someone told me there was no mechanics, but like it literally just tsunami happened. So,
yeah.
I got a MOPEC order I gotta fill.
I got an update from Ajax yesterday just on what him and Tony are working on. They're in good shape. I'm not going to step on their toes, but they may have an update for you, Nino.
Okay.
And I think I want to say we had some business applications, but I'll update that in the email chain.
You know what was kind of strange is asking for more mechanic shops while people are getting turned into criminals. Why? Like, it's just so bizarre, you know? It's if I had a magic wand, I would actually delete the police departments. And I would put into place individuals that understand the concept of law enforcement and have them like slowly rebuild up while the city self-manages itself. Because right now, I genuinely believe that we're dealing with like an occupying force at this point rather than actually law enforcement. Like it's just like, it's so strange to me that there's so much like social ineptitude that when you have departments literally fantasizing over taking someone's civ card right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't have law and order because like, it's, why would you as a civilian want to live a civilian life when you are not given the inherent benefit of the doubt that is bestowed on you by the Constitution? And then this, you know, the system is run by a fucking degenerate that encourages this kind of behavior, right?
That's where my mind went. It really is a top-down issue. You know what I mean? It does start at the top.
Yeah. Because otherwise there's no, you can't have accountability.
That's it. Exactly. Exactly.
Who's going to hold anyone accountable for what happened to other folks? Now, it's not beyond me that, that like SK is not a criminal, that JJ has some criminal dealings. But if you're not even willing to give people the latitude to like express themselves for who they are as people and who they are as like whatever their contributions are to San Andreas, but instead want to just take everything away from them, knowing that nothing can stop you, you are creating a fucking war zone.
Not wrong.
Like, it's just, it bothers me. Like Milton's mods, the only thing that can be said is, well, they're not repairing our cars. Why? Have you considered why? You fucking went and blasted all their people because Helen was held up or was told to fuck off. Like, what do you think is going to happen? There's no fucking common decency and no fucking respect. These are shit people.
The PD see themselves as separate from the general populace. There is no community outreach. There is no community connection. They do not feel indebted or as if they should be serving the general public. And I feel that that is a huge problem. I just don't know how to actually solve it without gutting the place.
Yeah.
I mean, we got shot last night,
Yeah,
called the cops, and nobody came.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of you are wrong or that like what you said is invalid, and like I know I've been in situations where PD didn't come, but I will say counterpoint, and maybe this is, you know, actually probably it's caused by some members of PD, but I will say there are people who also make PD feel separate, and I think what happens is small groups on both sides kind of take those limited experiences and extrapolate it to everyone.
Agreed.
So, you know, Bobby is an asshole to a criminal, so then the criminal tells all her friends that all cops are assholes, and then the criminals treat all cops as if they're assholes, so the cops are like, well, all criminals are assholes because, you know, this one gang is mean to me, and, you know, then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, I mean, to be straightforward, I'm not talking about somebody just being an asshole. I'm talking about cops violating people's rights. I'm talking about cops breaking the law. I'm talking about much more serious things than just being a dickhead to people.
But you're saying that they view themselves as separate? And those feelings of separation and us versus them mentality come from little things like those. It doesn't just start out of nowhere.
I can't control how a criminal deals with the cops, and I don't care really as much about that, to be 100% honest. I'm a civilian. I stay on the right side of the law. If the cops aren't going to treat me right, that's a fucking problem. I understand where the criminals have issues with the cops. They're always going to be at odds with each other. It's never going to completely go away. And so there's going to be some level of animosity. But a police officer needs to be held to a much higher standard than the average person due to the undue amount of power and responsibility they have. They have too much control over the situation for us not to expect more from them.
Absolutely could not agree with you more. I just think that it's worth looking at root causes and systemic issues rather than painting it with a broad brush.
I agree with what you're saying, but I see what you're looking at it from the macro level. Archie, and tell me, correct me, both of you, like if am I wrong about this, is looking at it from the perspective of PD has a unique authority to take away people's rights temporarily and then change their life. Whereas a criminal can only act on words. Or like everyone else. I shouldn't even say criminal. Anyone else can only act on words. So yes.
I wouldn't say that's an. I mean, PD absolutely have a higher authority that lets them do some crazy stuff that normal people can't do. Like, you both are absolutely right, but I think that a civilian and a criminal have more power than people inherently give them to. Like, yes, they don't have the ability to take away your rights, but like, violence can change someone's life. Suing or misrepresenting a statement or whatever. Like, I mean, look at Sherry Pie single-handedly ruined Forte's whole career. Like,
yeah, that is true.
I
It's
get
people.
that.
People have the possibility to do things. But I do 100%. I don't want you to think I'm disagreeing with you, Archie, because I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. I just think it's worth looking at it as a larger issue and looking at systemic root causes rather than just saying, well, they just hold themselves apart because they're mean and power hungry and whatever.
Sorry.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, because like if you are this is just human, right? That if a group of people, even if it's a small group of people, continually treat you a certain way, that you're going to become jaded and start looking at things in a broader stroke rather than attributing it to a small group of people. That like, and the same criminals do the same thing towards cops, right? It's just kind of a human nature thing.
I would agree with that if it wasn't for the volume, right? And
Yes.
well, like what happened to Forte via Sherry Pie is a singular incident versus what is appearing to be dozens, if not hundreds of incidents of the PD violating people's rights, right?
I personally would also say the state that the DOJ is currently in makes it very difficult for a civilian to actually get any
Also
recourse
true.
on issues,
Yes.
and so that is a major factor. It has to be thought about.
That's exactly it. And I like, take our own experiences as an example. We have been dealing with corruption in the DOJ. There's no other way to put it. Where Angel targeted me, targeted Pred, targeted Daisy, targeted Peters, and tried to manufacture bullshit. She slowed down the entire process. She, for us to even be able to function, she's, what do you call it? She, and then we fucking shot back finally, and it's like everyone disappeared.
Yep.
And like what the fuck? You know what I mean? We tried to hold them accountable for the first time, right? And through the proper channels legally, and like there's no legislation being passed, there's no conversation. Her first reaction was saying that we're acting in bad faith and being malicious. She had a lot of shit to say, just out of her ass.
Yeah.
But like, where is this conversation? Right? Instead, they're playing lame duck by not, by stalling everything now. There is, it's so when I look at it in this, like, look at all this, right? It's to me, it's just damning, right? And you do have good cops, but
Absolutely.
the problem is, like, what the fuck are they gonna do? You know what I mean? And part of me has an idea, which I'm not going to share right now, because I'm going to cook on it. But if it doesn't get better, I'm going to take the sledgehammer down.
Needs to happen.
Yeah. I want to see good faith. And if I don't see that as the fucking mayor, I'm going to take a fucking sledgehammer to it.
Man, gotta rip the Band-Aid off at some point.
Yeah. But with that said, I am going to see if I can get an update on all this.
Yeah, have you gotten your FOIAs back yet?
No, that's the other thing. McNee's been busy. He said he's going to pass it on to another judge. But
regarding our, contests, audits, blah 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 blah, those we've put those through, right? Like they're submitted.
Yeah, they're submitted. So waiting to hear back.
They're not like on like City Hall or anything. And like,
no, you hand those over to a judge, and then they would post up once they've actually decided made a decision on it.
Okay, so because I know we discussed like putting them up on like the website or something, and I think that that's a really good idea because I think people from the conversations I had yesterday would like to see that we're doing something, and like when I've said, oh yeah, like we're working on that FOIA stuff, like we've got a thing in right now about it, and they were like, well, I don't see it. Where is it? And I think just having that accessible for them, be like, look, here's our stance on it. This is what we've submitted. It's in progress, whether it's on the website or whatever, would be really beneficial for us to do.
I can do that.
Yes, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get some some public pressure on the situation.
I hate to say it. What I'll do is I will make a book. It'll be a one-page overview of what we're doing for each of them, and I'll just include a link at the end of the page that links to the entire request for audit on the website.
I think that's a great idea. I think including all the legislation, the status, what's going on, like literally everything that we've done probably since, include last term as well in the back. Yeah. And then let me review it before you pass it around.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll leave the humor out.
I think maybe like if we are putting things up on the lossantos.me website, maybe like a state announcement from you, Nino, just being like, hey, just so you know, like, this is going on. If you want more information, check here. Just so that because books are good, and I like them, but I think, we might have a problem of reaching people.
But wait, what?
Surprised how quick books get around.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if there's other ways we can do it as well, like I think it'd be good. But books are good, videos good. I'm down for quite a bit. I mean, the thing is, though,
just try and get as much coverage on it as possible.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to bring up?
Are we looking at any other legislation? Because I know people wanted us to look at the Den Act and the Judicial Powers
That's why
Codified.
I think that's why we need this priority board.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we
also need to
can
make sure PIP is still working.
Oh yeah, PIP is fucked. But someone's got to talk to Naya.
I'm supposed to try to talk with her soon. What you'll have to go into detail on what's up with the PIP.
With like 30% of it was copied into the new MDT, so it says implementation : then nothing.
Oh, that's right. When it was put into state law, it was copied and pasted without actually being enacted.
Yeah.
But let's do this. Unless there's anything else, I need to go talk
I do have
to.
one more thing. So, seeing as marshals and DOJ basically haven't been around for like 2 weeks, I had that visit that I told you about with DOC yesterday. And I just said, hey, we're looking at the act that, you guys are kind of codified in. And at this time, we're not intending on changing anything. But if in the event that, things are getting redone because, these were done jointly, so, things are going to be probably separated in the future. Is there anything, while we're taking a whack at it, that you guys want to have your voices be heard on? And I can at least collect that feedback and bring it to the table. Obviously, we're Los Santos, and they're not really our purview, but at least someone went to go get notes so that we can present it in like a more collaborative setting. And they had some notes on things. I can put those in the email chain if you guys want to look at it. But on here, general gist of it. Apparently, I thought you guys would think this is interesting to know. The edit to make the marshals the ultimate authority in Bolingbrook was done a month ago today, I believe it was. And they did not even notify the warden or DOC that those changes happened.
Yeah, that's par for the course.
DOC doesn't like it and wants that to change. I personally agree with that.
Wait, say that again. Which bit?
That the marshals are the ultimate authority within Bolingbrook.
What do they want?
They just want to be, like when they're, working as corrections officers within Bolingbrook, that like they have the say of, day-to-day stuff. They said marshals haven't been pushy so far, but they're worried about people coming in and doing that. And I think that honestly fits with our vision of the marshals.
Chat, let's no OC talk in chat. One or two you guys need to fucking relax. This isn't
corrections officer in the prison. They should be letting the corrections officers do that.
Not in this community.
Corruption and stuff, obviously, then that's a different story. But like, as far as
we keep it in RP. If others don't, that's on them. If other, you know what I mean?
Bailey
not here.
Himself. The DOJ,
it's basically the same
our
thing
county,
as saying
Blaine County and the DOJ were all supposed to be on an even playing field within their.
I do agree that RP needs to be done here, but don't take these. Listen, just because some people take role play as OOC shit,
likewise for
because they can't RP themselves,
that's literally
don't impose that onto this community.
This whole hierarchical system that the DOJ has tried to put in is against the spirit of what all of this was meant to be. And again, that's per Bailey.
Getting slapped with the same thing that BCSO and LSPD are, that the marshals are saying we're above the.
It's an AIDS mentality.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's appropriate within the prison. Again, unless it's something specifically within the marshal's purview, like investigating cases of corruption of like a DOC guard.
Right. You're not wrong.
I think it's we can monitor it, but as with our the way that I think it needs to be prioritized is with anything else is let's see them do something and then it can be on a radar.
There's a few other things. I'll just hit the highlights for you. They have concerns about qualified immunity because there is a shocking number of violent incidents that happen within Bolingbroke every day.
Yeah.
They say on average a DOC guard gets stabbed or shot 3 to 6 times per shift.
Oh my God.
Normal fucking Tuesday.
Yeah.
So they're worried about qualified immunity from their position. Heaven forbid they have to defend themselves against a inmate and hit them too hard. It's so they're worried about that. The other thing is I know we talked about looking at the penal code, but I'm not sure what the process for updating the penal code actually is. If charges
there's not
want
one
to be
codified.
added. Okay, so they have a request, which I think is honestly super reasonable, and I saw the direct effects of within my visit. Apparently, their biggest issue as DOC is break-ins, not breakouts, break-ins.
Really?
Yes, and there is no singular charge for break-ins at the moment. It's just kind of officer discretion. Typically, what gets applied is felony trespassing and introducing of contraband. But there was literally a break-in during my visit when I was there for about an hour, as well as a shooting with a smuggled-in gun that was likely the result of a break-in. They say they have break-ins usually on average 1 to 2 times a day, and it is getting more frequent now with the introduction of moon boots, especially if there are high-profile inmates. They've also said that it frequently happens back-to-back, where someone will break in, serve their time for breaking in, and then just break right back in. They're introducing a bunch of weapons with this, causing a bunch of violence. And it's also causing police to have to respond to an incident at the prison about once a day on average as well. I confirmed that with Forte. He says, yeah, that's about average for how often they get called there. And that's just for the break-ins they catch. So they want a break-in, stay-in sort of policy where there is a significant sentence attached to breaking in.
I'm going to let's put a pin on this because my ADHD is kicking in. This is all very good, but I'm going to hear it and it's going to go out the other ear because it's not on
as well.
Yeah, I think this is good stuff to monitor. I think that we need to get it on that priority board and see if it's something we even care about. How do I put this? There's so much bad shit that's happening in the city, but there's only so much we can take in. And DOC is not even our responsibility, so it's hard for me to.
No, and I agree. And I told them, I was like, look, I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to be able to do anything with you because, like, you're not really our jurisdiction. But if we're going to be taking a sledgehammer to things that potentially affect you, the least I can do is get your feedback to take into consideration.
And I think
so.
I want you to keep on, like, monitoring that, but just kind of keep in mind that, like, there's literally nothing we can do. Like, it's so outside of our purview. And when I'm thinking sledgehammer, I'm not thinking that big. Like, that'd be a nuclear bomb where that would require the entire Constitution to change.
Well, but the thing is if we're looking at repealing the Angel and DOC Act and replacing it with something that's functional, we have to replace the DOC one. Like, because they are joined, because they wrote them together. We have to.
I think if I may, I think it speaks to the need for them to have, good faith representation at the legislative table, but I don't think it's our table. I think it's the state table, right?
Exactly. So, like, even when we will not be able to have a ounce of a voice when it comes to DOC, because constitutionally the DOC is under state.
Yeah. No, and I told them, I was like, I'm not going to be speaking for you. I just want to like have
Super
your
Saintly,
concerns
thank you
written
the
down so
gifted
they can be
sub.
brought to the table when that table happens.
Yeah.
If anything, I would encourage them to request audits and challenge legislation. The same way that we
Well,
do.
the thing is that they were afraid that, like, or at least Scotty was. He's like, if I say something to you, is that complaining? Are we gonna get in trouble? And I was like, no.
They
like,
shouldn't. No, that'd be well.
But
okay.
they're worried to speak out about DOJ.
Well,
like,
of course, and they are right to think that, given what has happened in the past. Like, Ajax tweets some shit, and Angel prevents him from getting a bond license.
Yeah.
She's a vindictive piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, people see it. There is no, and then, you know, she can't think rationally about things and instead acts maliciously. So
Yeah.
I totally get where he's not wrong to feel that way, but the reality is that he's gonna have to play ball with the state. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's, and I don't want to discount it, but it's just, we have an entire city to worry about, and it's not you know, it's,
yeah,
we don't have the bandwidth, is what I'm trying to
with
say.
the break-ins thing, I think the only thing that, like, why I think that's important to bring up to you guys is because it's also affecting LSPD resources and time, because they're having to spend every day going up to prison for significant incidents that are taking away from them being able to police their jurisdiction.
The best advice that I would give to them is that they need to get someone to make a constitutional argument on their behalf, right? Like, I can't, like, we don't, like, I don't think we can even have time to spend to help them when all this shit's happening in the city. You know what I mean? And
no, fair enough. Again, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure we had things out on paper, that their concerns were at least heard by someone, and that, you know, in regards to, like, the break-in charge, that it is affecting our officers in our jurisdiction. So
I feel like a lot of this is a unfortunate reality that we're facing, is that the entirety of the city has nobody to confide in. They cannot confide in the marshals. They cannot confide in the DOJ. They can't even confide in Pred's mayorship. They weren't able to confide in fucking Andy's mayorship because no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? And it's unfortunate, and it's sad, and it's sick, but I get why it's happening too. Right?
I think part of the issue too is that with the amount of overstepping that the DOJ/marshals have done, that the whole system has kind of become broken at this point.
Yeah.
And it's like we're almost like gerrymandered. Like, our efficacy is limited now because we have these jurisdictions of two separate counties.
Oh my
and then,
God,
you know,
she's
the
right.
prison and blah blah blah, and it's like we can't do shit because of all this red tape in place. But now the whole system that's affecting
Holy
everyone
fuck,
is broken.
you're right. Yeah.
And now we're stuck here twiddling our thumbs. Well, we can only care about the South.
You're right. You are fucking right.
I hate this two-county system. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's way more bureaucrocy and red tape than we need. But
I wouldn't mind it if it wasn't for the top of it being such a convoluted mess, keeping everything else from working.
I agree. I agree with that latter sentiment.
Big issues, like, then we're fucked. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, it's not
you
a.
and Pred get along, but what
supposed to work
happens if the
together.
next two mayors don't?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that
and
that was
that's
our
where the
last
DOJ was
3
supposed
months,
to come from.
Maeve. You have to understand that the last mayorship was based on Andy is nice, right? And I'm sure she's a fan. Like, I don't have her politics were dog shit. Her politics was, how do I make BCSO happy and fuck everyone else?
Yeah.
That's the issue. And that mentality actually bled into the LSPD. Is like, these people, there's a lot of people, even LSPD, are like, you're the LSPD's mayor. Yes, and alongside with 95% of the city, right? The conceptually, the concept of cops versus robbers is like baked into a lot of people's mentality, and they can't break out of that. It's insane. You know what I mean? So it's an egg that's very difficult to crack, because it speaks to changing culture. It becomes a cultural problem, effectively, right? So, let's get this Trello up and going, and I want everyone, once it's up, to start adding things to it, and we'll start prioritizing those things in these meetings so that, you know, we're making sure that people are not overworking themselves while we're making progress on the highest priority things that have the highest amount of impact. So,
Try not to fall off any roofs today.
yeah, we'll try. Anything else anyone wants to bring up?
Well, I don't want to keep you, but I heard you had a bench trial the other day. Fill me in on that later when you got time.
I'll give you the TLDR. Is PD is dog shit, and they tried to charge SK for being in a passenger
BCSO.
seat. BCSO, yeah, in a passenger seat, who was knocked out, was not witness to be in any shooting, was GSR negative, had no gun. So, at the very right off the bat, I don't even think they had the ability to search him, let alone get to the, you know, point of charging him. And for some reason, I've come to the conclusion is that I don't actually think, like, I don't even think that, you know, I don't think a lot of cops even know what law and order is anymore. Like, don't even understand what law is. Like, it's actually so scary, as this situation like unravels itself. But rather because people just know, quote unquote, right, that someone is this, they're making up stories in their heads and then pressing it. And disclaimer, I'm not saying any weird shit. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, genuinely,
you're right.
I know you guys understand, but you know, you know, it's so these guys aren't cops anymore. They're fucking vigilantes. This is fucking Blackwater in action right now. You know what I mean? Like, fucking shoot first,
I'll
ask
give you a
questions
summary
later.
of what I know about that situation because I was dealing with it yesterday.
Yeah.
If you're curious.
Okay, I'm gonna take my leave here, and I'm gonna talk to Maxwell. Today's gonna be a relaxed day. Tomorrow we'll start cooking heavy. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
Take care, Nino. Ciao.